my secret love language. It's like my soul is etched with handprints of what could have been. And I guess if I get lost in that feeling too often, it feels as though I'm trespassing on someone else's territory in my life. And that might not make a lot of sense, but hopefully after this episode it will. This week on The Ordinary Connection, the episode's name is After Us. So, I hate giving up. I'm stubborn. I'm almost always the last to let go. But I hate begging even more. I've always hated it. And I think with a lot of the what, the how, the why, of the manner in which we choose to do things, there's a lot left to learn 9 times out of 10, in my opinion. But the problem with begging is I feel as though I turn into a puppy begging for attention, needing food, needing water, being shouted at for pissing on the carpet, shitting in the corner. And I don't think that's how anybody should feel, ever. But I was guilty of it. I know I was. I know I will be. But it also taught me it's gut wrenching, man. Knowing that the way that you're treating someone or the way that they are treating you is hurting you and hurting them is a terrible thing to have to live through. A terrible thing to have to experience. And granted, I'm talking like I'm an expert on it. Hardly. Hardly. I don't think I am. If I seem a little bit slow to the punch with some of the stuff that I'm saying, it's just there's a lot of what I'm talking about that doesn't necessarily make sense to me all the way yet. But I mean, up until now, right? If last week's conversation was about stillness and peace and learning yourself, this is kind of some of the elements that came out of it. And they won't always be positive, they won't always be good, and they won't always make sense to everybody. But that's okay. I guess I'm trying to be vulnerable without showing any kind of emotion, which is weird, but we'll see how it goes. I wish my voice had the right tone. I don't think it ever does. I don't think it ever will. And I don't think that even if I got the tone right, I wouldn't get the right emotion that I meant to communicate in my voice. Be something that gets communicated. I overthink everything. Everything. I'm very good at it. And I think it's very dangerous when we get into the place where we are playing emotional chess. Who's right? Why they're right? Because at some point, the game becomes the focus instead of the point of why we were playing, instead of the goal, instead of the outcome that we were after. And it felt as though I was watching myself sometimes experience something externally without necessarily understanding that this is my life and this is something that I am within because value, because decision making, because emotional understanding, because the words, vocab, all of these things that I have a capability to use, they weren't working. It's like spontaneously forgetting how to walk while you are walking. You know what your legs should do. You understand why you need to walk, but there's a disconnect. There's a function that is not happening. And it happens, and it's not really like we can stop it. It's not really like we can control it. I think That's maybe the difficult part. But the scariness of letting go is the scariness of beginning again. The scariness of finding yourself, giving up on who it is that you thought you could be, who it is that you were moving towards being, moving towards what it felt like, moving away from how it felt. There's 100 different things that I can say, but the irony of the whole letting go thing is that it's not it's not just losing. And I think the irony is I've lost a lot of people in my life. I've gone through a lot of loss in my life. But the losses that are happening more recently are bigger. They are more serious. They are having a bigger impact on me. And I mean, if I think back to one of the first people that I can remember losing, it is my gran at the age of 6. But that to a 6-year old has taught me that a lot of people don't appreciate their grandparents. And then I became one of those kids that don't do that because of the fact that I've never experienced a grandfather, and I've only ever experienced one person as a grandparent outside of up until 6. Let me say it like that. So the irony of going from connected to stranger is a weird thing. It's a difficult thing to sometimes process, but it's not something that requires complete processing. It is knowing that you done the walks, you sing the songs, feel what you feel, you have your emotions, and then you start laughing again. And then you start, I guess, doing what other people tell you is normal. But others might call that healing. I don't necessarily always feel like that's the case. I just think it's like hitting factory reset. And that's not necessarily healing because it will come back at some other point. I mean, do we ever lose our default settings? Do they ever change? Do they ever adapt? Or are we just constantly stacking on all of these new things that we are learning through each of these bonds and relationships that we make and form and create in our lives, and then we just adapt with what's left afterwards? Is the goal to be as little as least? Is the goal to be the least affected person in a relationship? Is the goal to be the most caring person in the relationship? Is the goal to be the most invested person in the relationship? Silly questions. But the piece that it makes me wonder about is when you get lost in someone else, what then? What if you forget you? Because if the old adage of I can't love someone else if I don't love myself, but if I can deprioritize myself and put someone else as a priority above me, that would mean that yeah, there's a chat that we need to have. Because they're gonna lose the person that they knew, that they met. And you are not gonna be that person, and you're not gonna know that person because that person's gonna be from unfamiliar, and then clashes, falls, breakages, all of that. But if you take that and you understand it as it is emotional dependence, it is physical dependence, it's all of these different types of things that happen. The regulation of ourselves through other people. If that's the thing that we lose because of the ripples that prioritizing other people causes, how would you feel if that's not something you consented to? I didn't consent to lose myself, but you lose yourself. I didn't consent to be obsessive, but I was. I didn't consent to not knowing myself and stepping into a relationship, but that's what happened. I mean, life is not in a neat little box. It doesn't come pre-packed and pretty. It is a mess. It is chaotic. It is fluctuating. It is adaptive. It is responsive. It is survival orientated. It is growth orientated. It is poverty orientated. There are so many different angles that someone can come at you from that if the goal is right, it's already wrong. If the goal is for someone to be better than, if the goal is for someone to recalibrate and force you into a box, I think it's already wrong, because that's not what connection should be. But last year, I tried learning something. I'm still struggling with it, but it's a thing called stoicism. I'm not all the way ready to unpack it just yet, but if you are interested in trying to manage yourself, I think it's a really nice place to start, because there's some exercises and stuff that you'll find that I think it will just remove you out of the world a little bit and push you into yourself. But the irony of the whole thing is there are new wounds now. There's new pain. There's new there's new outcomes that have occurred because of my interaction. And it's affected how I see the world, it's affected how I see people, it's affected how I listen to people. And some of them were made because of leaving. Some of them are made because of not going back. Some of them are made because of how it happened, why it happened, when it happened, the timing of it all. What do you do with that? What do you do when resilience is your default? Grinning and bearing it. What do you do with that skill, if we can call it that? But if I hate endings, I must love beginnings. And if I miss who I was, I might not like who I am. Maybe I miss who I could have been. Maybe I miss what I could see before the ending erased the future that I'd built in my head. Those types of conversations, they become concrete in endings. Maybe that's why I hate endings. Maybe it's why I write. Maybe it's why I think. Maybe it's why I do. Maybe it's why I am. Because I'm secretly trying to avoid any and all endings. How vain of me, right? But endings strip meaning away. They take the value of something away, in my opinion, and it's wrong. It's terrible. Like I'm saying, this is this is a conversation that is happening with someone that is struggling with people not hearing what they say. Funny how that this might be the platform, but that might be an experience, right? So I understand that it's easy to say, and a lot of people think that self love and romantic love are enemies, because they'll always say, "Oh, I love you. Don't worry about other people." It's not the same thing. The way people care about us is a very, very important thing for us to understand as the individual experiencing it. As much as it is important to understand that you do not want someone to love you the way they want to love you, you want them to love you the way you want to be loved. Because your justification is if they did, they would. Isn't it? It's that simple. But it's not. That's not a simple thing. I didn't say a simple sentence right now. Because you don't even know how you need to be loved. You don't even know what you consider love all the time, because of the fact that the people that you sometimes hate are the people that give you that love, and yet you do not give them the time of day. How does that work? Is that not then also a problem? But yeah, so before before I try and summarize, this is brief. I really don't think I understand. I don't even understand what type of manner or form or frame this conversation should take. And I think that's something that I'm really struggling with, because I thoroughly enjoy I thoroughly enjoy talking, and I enjoy being open. But I've noticed with the podcast there's a certain place where I'd like to go, and I feel some kind of reluctance to go there, because if I went there, there'd be things that complete strangers would know about me that those that care about me wouldn't. There'd be questions strangers would be willing to ask me that people that have said they love me have never thought about. And that's so interesting to me because I also prefer talking to strangers. So that's a little bit weird. But anyway, before I go to the closing, because it's a little bit punchy, I am going to do our song recommendations for this week. Right. So, first song recommendation this week is Charlene by Jakai Jones. Okay. Please do not mind the air within the music. It is just, in preparing for the episode, there are things that I found out. So, this is just my little love language showing itself. Autumn by Sunny Al Day. Then we are going to do Rain by Lucy Park. Blinded, or if I get this guy's name wrong, I'm sorry. But Blinded by Blueprints. And then the final recommendation for this week is The Right Song by Free and Losh and Terrell Morris. I'm all over the place. Don't mind me with this week's music recommendation. It will be on the playlist though. I am going to put the QR code somewhere. So you can just scan it and then you get access to the playlist. It's all of the songs I've recommended so far. If you put it on shuffle, it's a bit of a trip, but outside of that, it's a good listen every now and then. But yeah, I think in closing, I'd want to say I don't think I have any answers. I think this whole episode is me just saying nothing. So if you found anything of value, please make sure to let me know. But I've written letters, I've told stories, I've numbed myself. But the only thing that really felt like it had any meaning was sitting with it. And I think, like a child who can sense that something is sad in the world but doesn't know how to name it, sit with yourself. When you feel overwhelmed, lost, whatever. Um, but I will ask you a question. What are your steps to rebuild? Because I think everybody has a after us thought. But what parts what parts of you, or how do you know, maybe that's a better question. How do you know what parts of you are important to get back to? How do you find those things? Because I'm not willing to just say the things that. Okay. So there's a thing that I want to read. I've taken a bit long to read this book because I keep going back to certain pieces. But in this section on fake freedom, Mark Manson is trying to describe certain things. But let's just go through it quickly. So, for example, I want a life-size bag of marshmallows in my living room. I want to buy an $8 million mansion by borrowing money I can never pay back. I want to fly to a new beach every week for the next year and live off nothing but Wagyu steaks. But what I want is fucking terrible. That's because my feeling brain is in charge of what I want, and my feeling brain is a goddamn chimpanzee who drank a bottle of tequila and then proceeded to jerk off into it. Therefore, I'd say that give the people what they want is a pretty low bar to clear, ethically speaking. Give the people what they want works only when you're giving them innovations, like a synthetic kidney or something to prevent their car from spontaneously catching on fire. Give those people what they want. But giving people too many of the diversions they want is dangerous. For one, many people want stuff that's awful. Two, many people are easily manipulated into wanting shit they don't actually want. Three, encouraging people to avoid pain through more and more diversions makes us all weaker and more fragile. And four, I don't want your Skynet ads following me around whenever I go and mining my life for data. Right? So it becomes a sequence of I trust people when they tell me what they want, but what if they don't know? What if they only know what they've wanted up until this point? What if they only know what they were taught to want? And maybe the focus is not what we want. Maybe the focus is actually what do we need and who do we need it from? So yeah, if you resonated with anything, I don't even know if there's anything for you to resonate with in this episode. This felt like a baby therapy session that I got stuck on regularly. But if you did, if you resonated with anything, I hope that you know you're not alone in how you feel, even if you go through it quietly and in your little bubble and you don't want to let anything out. It's okay. We, like I said, we all have that after us moment, and sometimes that's when we meet ourselves. I mean, I've heard so many stories about people that find themselves and then things go a different way for them after that moment occurs. So it's just about finding it out. But um, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure that you share, like, share, subscribe. I've said everything already. So yeah, make sure that you do all the things that you know you're supposed to do. Make sure that you tell your friend. Make sure that you talk to someone if you are dealing with something that you don't want to talk to other people about, even if it's a stranger. They can't judge you. Remember, it's a really, really cool thing that you can do. But yeah, if you have any queries or questions, please feel free to either shoot me a DM or something. I am trying to get up to kind of having a little bit of a rapport more with like an audience. I'm trying to properly build my audience now. It's a little bit difficult because there's lots of unknowns, but we'll be okay. Right. So, like every other episode, we have been real, we have been raw, we have tried to stay relevant. But stay cool, stay calm, stay connected. This is Keegan out.